What's your actually I am the manager story? P off customer asked for the store manager's card and when he will be in so he can complain about me for charging him a restocking fee per policy. I hand him the manager's card and tell him he will be able to speak with him the following day. I am the manager. He called. I answered. He hung up. You should have made him call you right there and then pull your ringing phone out pocket. I ran an ice cream shop. I must have had to say actually, I am the manager at least once a week. My favorite was this woman I eventually banned from the shop. She would come in with her husband and crappy kids. Then she would try to order a large, 3 scoops, and ask me to put it in 3 single scoop cups, but only charge for the large. I said no. You either order 3 single scoops or you order a large. The difference in cost is quite a bit, but it's fairly standard for companies to do it this way. I wasn't having it. She got pissy that I wouldn't do it. First she said well the manager let me do it last week. No I didn't. I told her flatly. Well then whoever was working let me do it and they said they were the manager. No they didn't. I believe my work is over you. Well I want to talk to the manager. I am the manager. You are talking to me. I said number. Fine and she and her little family stormed out without any ice cream. No skin off my back. She was rude to me and my workers. I wasn't going to let her treat us that way. Then she proceeds to call the shop the next day, when I am working again as the manager. I worked a lot. She said hello. I need to speak to the manager. Speaking. How can I help you? I was in there yesterday and some little bee lied and said she was the manager, but she wouldn't let me get what I wanted. That bee was me. You're banned from our location. Don't come back. Bonus justice boner. She tried to call corporate to report me. Corporate outsources complaints to the manager with the highest rating in the area, which was me. So when she called corporate to complain about me, she also got me. I wrote up the details of the conversation and forwarded all of her messages to the district manager, and he agreed with my decision and allowed me to send her an email officially banning her from the store. So when she called corporate to complain about me, she also got me. This was my favorite part. The company is Salem Scout all the way down. I used to work in the box office for an MLB team. The actual manager was usually extremely busy and couldn't easily respond to issues at 15 different windows, so we frequently pretended to be each other's managers. It was the easiest way to get back up when an annoying customer would not accept one of our policies. On one night I was helping a very drunk customer who refused to accept a policy. I don't remember exactly what it was. He asked to speak to the manager, but he and everyone else around me were crazy busy. So I turned my back on the customer, turned back around, pretended to be a different person, and backed myself up. He accepted this without issue and went on his way. Worked in retail, specifically a specialist bra fitting shop. One day I was working the change room desk upstairs, taking bookings for fittings and helping the 10 or so customers in the rooms for people who didn't need a fitting but needed me to just quickly check things sometimes and fetch different sizes etc. It was busy, and a woman came in on the lunch rush and demanded a fitting. I politely told her that I was very sorry but all the fitters were booked and with other customers for the next hour or so I could help her a bit but can't give one attention as I'm helping all the other rooms too. So if she wants the full thing she would need to pop back tomorrow or later. She flew off the handle, telling me how busy and important she was, that she made a special trip, she can't come back tomorrow, I should help her etc. She was really rude, aggressive and mean. I just politely repeated that I was very sorry but I couldn't help her for the reasons above, we just had no free staff. She ranted a while but then left. A few minutes after she went downstairs I got a call from one of the till girls saying a customer was complaining about the young girl on the fitting desk who refused to help her even though she could see spaces on the list, and had been rude and had been swearing at her and wanted to see the manager about it. It should be noted I was about 24 at the time, but looked really young, maybe 18. She clearly had no idea I was the manager. I told the desk girl I would be down shortly. I walked down those steps so slowly with a huge crap-eating grin to let the horrible woman slowly recognize who I was. When she saw it was me her face was just a picture. I played along asking for a description of the girl who was so rude, as that is very much outside our standards. I am shocked to hear such a thing happened. I was upstairs at the time and certainly would have intervened if I had heard such a thing, etc. Crap eating grin on full power the whole time. She had caused such a scene that all the people in the shop were staring at us. So she either had to admit she had been lying and trying to get what she thought was some poor shop girl fired, or she had to make up a description with me obviously going to be saying things like no one here looks anything like that. Try again. She just was at a loss for words. Her mouth agape, gasping for air. Bright red, not making eye contact. I forget if she said anything at all, but she stood there for a long while and just left. I have never felt such satisfaction as I did walking down those stairs knowing what was about to happen. You scare me, in a good way. I was working in the local dairy. A lady came in wanting to buy some chewing gum. She didn't have enough on her, so went to go get some more money out of her car and tried to take the gum with her. I asked her if she could leave it inside while she went and got more money. She got highly offended, asked to speak to the manager and all, and then stormed out. Later that day she called the owner of the dairy, who told her I was only doing what I was told. The next day the gum lady rang me and apologized. This is the first such story I have read on many AskReddit threads where the customer actually apologizes. Close was working at a chain bookstore in the same town that the CEO lived in, and he would frequently come into our store to get things. Had a customer blowing up at me over a return and that an exception should be made because he knows the CEO really well. They go way back. Not the first time I've heard similar things. It didn't help he got the CEO's first name wrong. I wish I could have some sort of memento from this, but the CEO was in the store that day. The CEO was in the very line for the registers that annoying customer was holding up with demands to return something he didn't buy from us. I knew the customer was full of crap since they had the name wrong and ignored his good friend in line. So it was nice to ask why he didn't say anything to his pal. It was nice when the CEO came up to us at the registers to ask if they needed help. And it was nice to have two store managers stand there confirming that he was talking to the CEO and was caught in the lie of knowing the CEO to demand a return. I work in a hotel that is owned by the same person that owns 4 other hotels. We get the same thing at least once a week. Someone is told no and immediately responds with "I'll know Jack Mehef," not his real name, and I am going to call him tomorrow. Once, our owner was standing in the lobby during a guest rant. He looked at the guy and said, "I don't know you. Get the frick out of my hotel." My brother and I worked as lifeguards at a little community pool. The working situation was such that I, the elder brother, was the pool manager and my brother was the only employee. Also important to note is that my brother and I look very different, so if you don't know us you may not know we are related. The incident in question happened on the busiest day of the year, with close to 50 people in pool. So while I am trying to watch all the small children in the pool, this man in his mid-30s does a flip off the diving board. So I try to express to him, politely, that we do not allow flips. Unfortunately, the man, henceforth referred to as Dickhead, decided he didn't like my tone and starts to give me a lecture on customer service. I truly could give no less fricks about Dickhead's rant, but he is being distracting while I'm trying to keep an eye on a little girl with some questionable swimming skills. So I told him that lifeguarding is not a service industry and that I don't care about his feelings. He then began to yell about talking to my manager. So I said, "I am the manager. Get out of my pool." To which he responded by storming off to find the number for the manager. So Dickhead approaches my brother to try to contact the pool manager, me, and tries to wheedle the other lifeguard onto his side. My brother was having none of it and gave the man my number. He eventually left, but not before making another scene, yelling about poor service and stupid butthole lifeguards. Needless to say, he was not allowed to return. I was an auto parts store manager. In that retail setting, you don't see too many female employees, and when some customers come in, female customers usually being the bigger offender, they want to talk to a male employee. In this case, I was working with another employee, a female manager, when a guy came in and started asking her questions. He clearly knew little, as he was the one asking questions. Our female manager was answering them, but the guy didn't like or believe the answers coming from her. I was in the back around the corner, but listening to the conversation. The guy said she clearly couldn't help him and he needed to talk to a man. I came out from around the corner about this time and the customer came down to the register where I was standing. He started asking me questions about parts, and I told him that is a good question. Let me ask our expert. And I called over our female manager. Customer got all huffy and said we were running a 2-bit store and that we didn't know anything. He told us he'd visit out competitor and then left. That coming from the guy asking the questions, not giving the answers. I really don't like those kind of people. Used to work head of spare parts at an auto store too. Tended to be older guys, wouldn't even give our female staff a chance. I have waited so long for this moment. On mobile and not super Reddit savvy, so I apologize for the format. I used to work at a Hot Topic and was the opening manager some weekday a few summers ago. This woman comes in with her 25 plus YO crust punk daughter and her boyfriend to buy them some clothes. They were pretty much regulars and I knew their faces. Anyway, the shorts were on sale or something, but you couldn't mix girls' shorts with guys. I let them know that, and later when I'm ringing her out and she isn't seeing the sale applied to the shorts she got, she absolutely snaps on me. I explained calmly that I already told her that the sale couldn't be applied as it's an automatic button and I cannot physically honor it. She was getting really heated and starting to yell at me, basically just being an angry condescending bee. The conversation was like this. You can just change the price. It's not that hard. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. It's not part of the sale, so I can't actually do that. Even if I could, I'm not going to give you a discount you shouldn't have if you're B. Sorry. You clearly don't understand how a register works. Me. Mom. I cannot give you the sale. Either you can buy these 2 items as they are or you can put them away. I crap you not. She actually said the following. Little girl, why don't you run into the back and get your manager so I can explain how this works to her? I almost exploded. I was so excited. I was so ready to finally do IT. So, with the most smug crap eating smile, I simply said I am the manager. What did you need me to explain? It was the best. Haha, nice. Freaking crusties. Man. I halfway expect this crap from them most of all, really. I was working as the shipping manager at an aluminum remelt facility. We usually ship SOs, 1200, 1800, LBL ingots basically. My department was always understaffed and I the biggest fastest forklift in the department parked by my office, so I'd usually load trucks myself while my guys were trying to prepare stage loads. Truck go through security and all that jazz. Get back to me, and the driver decides he's not gonna wait for me to get over there. He's just gonna rummage around and try to find the switches to open the gate and roll up door. Walking on random driver rummaging around my office, basically trying all the buttons like an idiot. Ask him to go sit in his truck as our insurance company doesn't allow for drivers to be out of their truck. He gets all pissy, can't back up for crap, but eventually gets to the dock kinda crooked but workable. Gets back out of the truck to help me load it. Tell him no, he needs to sit in the truck, and he starts flipping crap that he won't let some dumbass kid, I was 22, load his truck so he can get a ticket, blah blah. I grew up with trucking, so I kind of understand his point. Tell him fine, but he needs to stay behind a giant yellow rail. So I start loading the truck with my usual pattern. I know what the load weighs and what each stack of materials I'm putting in weighs, so I'm using a pattern that will make the truck legal and symmetrical. He's bitching the whole time he don't like how I'm loading it. Tell him that if he doesn't want me to load it this way, fine. I'll stack it however the heck he wants, but I'm not going to adjust or anything after the fact. He'll have to live it. He demands to speak to my manager. Explain I am the manager. He calls me a freaking liar and calls the phone number listed for shipping manager on his paperwork. Cell phone rings in my pocket and he backs off a bit and chuckles that he thought I was just a kid. I will get the truck loaded his way, which probably had close to 40k on the drives, and he goes to our scale. That doesn't give axle weights, only gross, so he comes back and wants me to adjust a little off the drives just to be safe, which would mean unloading and reloading the whole truck. I remind him he demanded it loaded this way and I have other trucks to load, so no. He starts flipping crap again and I tell him that there's a truck scale down the about 5 miles and they can axle it. He's kind of happy with this info and that it's close and leaves. That scale is the state scale. Got a call the next morning cause he was trying to stick us with a ticket. Didn't work, but was hilarious. That's the story in as small a nutshell as I can manage. Guy was there almost 3 hours just bickering over every little thing and wanting things moved a couple inches on the truck. TL. Dr. But whole driver demanded that dumb kid load his truck his way and got a ticket for it. I did flatbed for a bit. I figured the guys loading the trailers knew what they were doing and let them do their job. Never had any overweight axles. That dude deserved it. My aunt used to own a second-hand furniture store. She called it Sally Mae's Second-Hand Shop, not the real name, and Sally Mae were the middle names of her 2 daughters, my cousins. I would occasionally go over and help her clean or rearrange furniture there. One afternoon I'm watching the front and she's in the back and the phone rings, so I answer. It's this woman who sold an old armoire and is upset about the amount of money she was given for it. This was told me after the fact because I couldn't decipher crap from the banshee screech through the phone. My aunt comes back and sees my wide-eyed teenage face and takes the shrieking receiver from me. My aunt handles the call and I can hear all of it. She explains that the armoire was only worth about $200, not $1K, because it was made of plywood and severely damaged, not cherry and walnut and in prime condition. Banshee isn't having any of it and demands to speak to Sally Mae. Who's Sally Mae? It's her shop, isn't it? I want to talk to her. You're being rude. My aunt laughs, explains that she owns the store and that Sally Mae was just a name that she liked. I told the woman to never contact her for business again and hung up. Kind of different, but at my work, we don't have to wear the uniform. We could just wear our regular clothes. Also, I am an assistant to the owner of this place. Let's just say it's a local cafe, so I work on the laptop a lot answering emails and things like that. Mind you, I am of legal age but look really young. Pre-teenage. One day, a customer came in with her kids while I was working on the laptop at one of the tables. Her son, looked to be around 2 or something, came up to me and to be friendly, I stopped working and said, "Hey bud, wanna go look at the food on display and you can pick out what you want?" The mom was smiling the whole time as I showed him the food on display and she kept telling me, "I am so sorry for him bothering you. You look so busy with your homework. Do you go to insert name of junior high school a few minutes away?" I told the lady I was actually an employee there and that I was actually assistant to the manager. She apologized profusely for thinking I was younger and interrupting my work and gave me a tip for being nice to her son, lol. Nicest story here. I love it. I managed a grocery store in high school. It was a small place with 2 registers up front and the manager had one at the service video rental counter. There were a number of times where I'd be covering a register for someone's break and get an unruly customer who demanded a manager. I'd tell them I would call the manager over to the counter for them. I'd walk right over with them, open the locked door to the office, and come out to the counter with a crap-eating grin and "How can I help you today?" I had a guy shove me and get in my face in a bar and tell me I better call security before he kicked my butt, unzipped my jacket to reveal a logo with the name of the bar we were in, promptly barreled him out the front door and said okay. I got him. He spent the next 20 minutes begging me to be let back inside. I've got a great one. Used to work in a convenience store during college. This convenience store didn't have the classiest of clientele. One day this lady comes in and wants some cigarettes that we were out of. They were the cheap brand and so she goes on to say, "Well, if you're out of those the manager lets her have the premium brands for the same price." I laugh right into her face and say, "Do you want them or not? They're gonna be the price they are." She gets upset, goes on this tirade and tells me to call the manager. At this point, I was tired of her but I fancy her request. So I say, "Okay, I'll do it." I pick up the store phone, call my own cell phone, let my cell phone ring for a few seconds, then answer my cell phone while still on the store phone and say, "Hey, there's this lady here and wants to speak to the manager." The mad, then confused, then sad, then mad again face she made was the greatest of all comebacks I've probably ever come up with in my life. It was great. I'm happy I came far enough down to find this story, but I'm also appalled that I had to come down this far to find a story of someone speaking to themselves on 2 phones. That must have been so satisfying. This girl has worked in a restaurant I manage for a month and a half and she is absolutely incompetent. I walked into a completely dirty kitchen and this girl is on her phone texting mid-shift. When I told her she wasn't allowed on her phone, she responds, "You're not the boss of me." Actually, I am. And you're fired. I used to manage a pizza shop. We had an open view kitchen so the customers at the counter could watch us toss and make their pizza. So one day I'm sitting to the side enjoying my lunch when this older guy comes in and asks my co-worker for a slice. Now we sold cheese slices and pepperoni slices at $1 difference, and specialty slices at $1 more. This guy wants a pepperoni slice, but wants us to add literal fistfuls of sliced onion and jalapeno. My co-worker was like, okay, but that'll cost more, $1 more. The guy went ballistic. This is ridiculous, he said. Where's your manager, he asked. So, with a mouthful of lettuce, I stand up and walk over there. I didn't feel like doing any talking. So I grabbed some tape and a Sharpie and wrote manager on a piece of tape, stuck it on my co-worker and gave him a thumbs up. Co-worker promptly told the customer that if he wanted the slice he'd have to fork over the cash. The guy did, grudgingly, and left with his slice. Watching my co-worker's face turn into a mean grin was the best part. Seriously, this is some cartoon level crap right here. I love it. So when I was like 12, my stepdad took my sister and I to a sandpit on the Mississippi River. We're running around and exploring and having fun. But then I get paranoid and ask him, won't they be mad if we mess up something? His response, I am they. He owned the company. That's just heartwarming, assuming you have a good relationship with your stepdad. Work in a movie theater with a full bar in it. I was helping sell tickets and the other manager in duty was working in bar since our bartender was running late. Had two guys come up from the bar fuming mad. I immediately jump on a register in order to take care of whatever was going on. These guys then proceed to complain about how the idiot bartender wouldn't serve them without an ID and demanded to speak to a manager. I informed them that's who I was, and when I told them that's our policy, no matter how old you may look, we need to see a physical ID. And satisfied with my answer, they asked if there was another manager on duty. Yep, he just kicked you out of the bar though, so I don't know how much help he'll be to you. They then stormed out and we never heard from them again. Ha, that's like an elaborate two guys walk into a bar joke. This is kind of the opposite but good story all the same. I work for a large mechanical contractor and the owner is obscenely rich. Like, more than 10 Ferraris, multiple Lambos, car obsessed. Having bought a few 6-digit Ferraris in his life, he became close friends with the owner of the dealership. One day he went to the dealership straight from work to see his friend, and while he was waiting he was looking at some of the cars. Like I said, straight from work, so he was pretty filthy and looked like his salary was probably lower than the price of the car he was looking at. A sales associate saw him and politely pointed out there was no way he could afford the car. My boss calmly looked him up and down and said, I'm waiting for, insert dealership owner's name. Get me a freaking coffee. 20 minutes later my boss drove away with the same Ferrari he was told he couldn't afford. And the sales associate was told to pack his crap and leave by the end of the day. I love telling this story. It's a bit different from most of the ones in this thread. In college during the summer I worked at a hippie art festival thing in a booth helping children make pottery on the wheel. Great job. Super fun. A few days before the festival opened I went in to get the booth ready, etc. I brought a friend with me. She'd been hired at my suggestion and was meeting the manager of the booth for the first time. We get there, park my car, and another good friend of mine who was already there waiting for us hops in to have a safety meeting before we get started. We get a little baked, and as the second friend is handing my first friend the joint, she declines, saying that she doesn't want to get too stoned before she meets the manager of the booth. Second friend just laughs and says, actually, yeah, that's me. I'm the manager. We've met now. God, I miss that job. Not quite manager, but I quite often wander into the first class of term with all the students and try to get a bit of an idea of their attitude and stuff before revealing that I am, in fact, the lecturer. I still look young and scruffy enough that I can pull it off, for now, and it usually relaxes the atmosphere when they get a first impression of me just being a sort of normal guy who happens to be a bit more experienced. Hey man, you wanna do some lines in the bathroom before class? Sure. Group snorts lines in the bathroom. Okay, let's go back. I gotta give you guys this lecture. I was the manager of a rideshare program and was at an event we had been invited to. This jerk comes up to me and points to the sign and starts saying how no one is ever going to give up their car. People like driving. Always have, always will. He was making fun of the graphics. claimed our stats were false. Then he grilled me on how did I get to be here staffing this booth and how he would make a great volunteer for the org. So finally, I said, well, it is unlikely you would ever be a volunteer for name of the org. He asked why, and I told him that I was the program manager and would never select him as one of our volunteers. This has finally convinced me that people can be snooty about anything. I'm 30F with tattoos and I've been in management since 18. So I'm used to it, but this one was funny and just happened. My whole admin team hit one of their big goals a couple months ago, so I took them to the spa as a reward. Making small talk with the person taking care of the event, I explained why we were there and he said, "Oh, how is the manager handling everything without the whole office there? He must work you ladies hard." So I got to reply, "Well, I run the place, and I'm handling things just fine, but thanks for the concern." How sexist. Yesterday, an elderly man in a wheelchair came into my restaurant. He was very animated, saying stuff like, "I don't need no menu, I just wanna know where the food at," and when I tried to sit him at a large table that was close to the door bathroom, he exclaimed, "Don't seat me there," looking like the Last Supper for me. I sit him at a two-top, and I can already tell the female server whose section he is in is not happy. About 10 minutes after his food comes out, another female server, a stocky female rugby player, comes up to me and says that she will be taking over the table. The man has been licking his lips and saying things to the first server like, "Are you on the menu tonight and lem get a slice of you for dessert?" So I take a stroll. "How's the food?" So he actually has the gall to complain the greens in his salad are too bitter. "I can have the kitchen remake that for you with romaine. The reason I came over here is that you're making some comments that are making one of my servers very uncomfortable." "What's that? What did you say to me?" Now, I raise my voice so that the next 10-15 tables can hear me. "You're making lewd and improper comments to one of my servers, which is why I had this table transferred to another server. You need to comport yourself like a gentleman in my establishment or I can wheel you out the door. The choice is yours." I'm dressed in plain clothes as opposed to all black. So as he is about to ask to speak to a manager, he clams up and does awkward seal face. Update. I clocked out about a half hour after this nonsense. The guy had not said anything to the new server, like, at all. Then suddenly, snapped and yelled, "B, get my check, I asked you 30 dang minutes ago." Server 2 went to get change from the bar, and after about 1 minute of waiting, he said, "Frick it, I'm done with all you'll be," and wheeled out, leaving the server actually quite a nice tip. Accidentally, I assume. That is a satisfying story indeed. Worked as a manager in a sportsman's warehouse for a few years. I started at 21, so I was fairly fresh still. Plus I'm not particularly tall and I keep myself freshly shaven so I don't look any older than 21 at this point. Anyways, had a guy come in who told me the price of some $3,000 pair of binoculars was selling on eBay for like $2,100 and wanted me to price match. I told him no, we don't price match from eBay. Sorry. He starts having a huge fit and all of a sudden he puts his hands on the counter, stares at me and goes, "Do you really want to make this worse for yourself?" Then he says, "Go get me your goddamn manager." I looked that guy right in his eyes and stared at him, put my hands on the counter and said, "Sir, I am the manager." He proceeded to say, "Yeah right," and so I pointed him to my name tag which literally said my name plus hard goods manager. After he saw that, he started yelling that he was going to call the Better Business Bureau and all this other bulls, and that he was never shopping there again. Saw him walk past me a week after that encounter. Frick retail. I was a shift lead and all the managers were on lunch so I was the boss for the next 30 and that happened to me once. Frick retail. Glad I got out of department stores. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.